Hey everybody, what is ICM photography? That's a new one for me. I'm wondering if that's a new one for you. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new to this channel is actually dedicated to people that want to increase their creativity and imagination when it comes to photography and as a photo artist. I've been a photo artist for almost 18 years now and enjoying it, and just keep on pushing myself to get a little bit more creative in my ideas and personal projects, along with client work that I still do. But let's take a look at this new topic, and that is, what is ICM photography? Because it's new to me. I don't know if it's new to you or not. But before I get into it, if you can do me a favor, and that is like this video. It helps promote this channel to go to other people who have similar interests. And also hit subscribe if you have not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. That way you'll get alerted when there's a new video that comes up. And I try to do that about one video per week. Okay, so let's talk about what is ICM photography. And I had to break this up into two parts. And the first part is, what is this? And what are some equipment I need to do this? And what are some of the camera techniques and strategies behind actually doing this kind of work? Before we get into that, I'll show you examples of work and some people I've been following. And then part two is going to be a homework assignment. Part two, I'm going to give you the homework assignment right now, today, because it is almost 9 o'clock in the morning where I'm from. And when I get done with this, I'm grabbing my camera and I'm going to go out and shoot and do the homework assignments and push myself to learn these techniques. So let's talk about what is ICM photography. And it is, see if I can get my computer to work here. It stands for, I should say, ICM stands for Intentional Camera Movement. And, you know, we're so focused on everything being crystal clear, sharp as could be. This is the total opposite, okay? You're intentionally moving that camera with some movement and to come up with something very creative and artistic looking. So I'm going to give you an example. I found that as I was researching ICM photography, and that most of it, but it's not limited to this, but most of the photography tends to be street photography and landscape photography. But again, it's not limited to that, but that just seems to be the vast majority. The other thing is a lot of it's done in black and white, even though there are some color ones. And I'll give you some examples of that. But it's very subjective. It's all determined based on your likes if you want to do black and white versus color. So one of the people that I've been following, and I'm going to butcher her name. It's Olga, and I think it's Karlovac. And she recently had a gallery showing in London this year in June. So I was recording this. That was a month ago. And let's take a look at some of her work. And again, it's in black and white. This is some images from that gallery of her work. And again, it's an intentional camera movement. And I'll share some ideas and techniques with you that I've been taught, and I'm ready to put it into practice. But let's take a look at some more of her images, and we'll zoom in close on some of the really cool ones. This is one of my favorite ones of hers. And again, very slow shutter speed to create that piece of work. And then another favorite one of mine that's done by her. I just love the contrast between the whites and the darks and the way that is balanced off in that composition. Then there's another person I've been following, and that's Andrew Gray. And he does a lot of his work in color. And so this is an image of his, one of my favorites of many. I mean, his work's incredible also. And this is another one of his. Now you can tell that's a sailboat in the background. But again, it's very abstract looking. The technique I'll share with you in a few minutes is what's used to come up with these type of images. Plus, you can actually throw these into Photoshop and go even deeper and further into the projects. So I was walking around the street the other day, and I just got motivated. And of course, best camera you have is the one that's with you, and that happened to be my cell phone. It's an old cell phone. It still works. It's a Samsung S8, but the point is, in the software, I can set everything to manual settings. And I was just goofing around, and it took quite a few shots to do this, but I came up with this. It's a famous alley that's photographed a lot in the town that I'm from in Michigan. And it's not bad. I know I could do better than that, but it was like one of my first attempts. So I'm ready to go, grab that gear and head out and start working this morning and try some techniques. So part one is going to be explaining the techniques of doing ICM photography. And then part two is going to be, let's analyze and take a look at some of the images I just did this morning. And I'm going to do something cold turkey. I'm going to do something in Photoshop. I'm not going to rehearse it. I'm just going to do it like the very first time. So I'm going to goof it up, make mistakes, but this is the way we learn. Okay, so that'll be in part two. But let's get back here to part one. And that is, let's take a look at camera settings and talk about these really close, because it's really, really important. Number one is your ISO. You want to pull your ISO as low as you can. Most cameras can go down to 100. Some, you can actually drop it to 50. And usually you have to go into your menu settings to find that, to change that. And every camera manufacturer is going to be a little bit different. But again, ISO, because we're trying to shoot at a very slow shutter speed. And I'll talk about shutter speeds in a few minutes. Next thing is you're going to manually focus. That's all pre-done in advance. The next setting in your camera is your shutter speed. Now, the shutter speed is going to be based on your f-stop that we're going to cover, and how bright is it? Is it a sunny day? Is it a dark, overcast day? These will be different variations, but the goal is to go about a half to 10 seconds for your shutter speed. And it doesn't mean it has to be in between that. I've heard some people have done as many as 20 seconds, but this seems to be the average that people tend to use for ICM photography, and that is a half to 10 seconds. The next thing is your f-stop, and that is anywhere from f11 to f22. And if needed, if you're not getting a slow enough shutter speed for proper exposure, you may have to use an ND filter, so that would be optional. So a neutral density filter, if you have one, I'm not telling you to go out and buy one. I have one that is a variable one. I think it goes from, don't hold me there, I think it's like 1.5 to 8 stops of light or so. It's actually a dial that I turned for that. So I'll have that with me in case I do need that, because again, I'm fighting for that sweet spot for me when it comes to the shutter speed. And if I'm not getting the shutter speed I want, it might be too bright, too much light coming in because it's bright outside, then I might have to have a neutral density filter. The next thing is shooting in JPEG versus RAW. A lot of people shoot in RAW, and not only RAW, low res RAW files, because when they blow it up, they want more of an abstract. They don't want things to be clear, and they want to see maybe some digital noise in there. That's a plus for a lot of the work that's done in ICM. So I'm going to set my camera both to shoot RAW and JPEG, but I'm going to set my JPEG to be the smallest possible file size my camera will let me set it at. So these are some guidelines for you when it comes to camera settings. Again, get your low ISO, your manual focus, your shutter speed, half second to around 10 seconds, a high f-stop, and neutral density filter if needed, and then shoot either JPEG or RAW or both. Most cameras can shoot both, so you might want to play with that. Okay, with the camera settings, let's talk about camera techniques, though. How do I take this stuff if I'm taking it with a slow shutter speed? Well, one, there's some handheld motions. And the suggestion that I was taught is you want to use a wide angle lens. Something that might be like, you can go 14 or 25 to 35 in that range, or even up to 50 mil. But you don't want to do a telephoto zoom, or you could to try it, but here's the problem with using something where you're zooming in, say 200 or more. And that is, if you hold the camera and you're zooming in at 200 or more, a little bit of motion with the camera is a lot of motion in the frame. Or if you're wide angle, using the same motion is less in the shake and that kind of stuff. So it's easier to control if you're shooting at wide angle. The other thing is you don't have to have a professional camera. You can actually use a point and shoot and use the same techniques, or a cell phone if the cell phone allows you to make those adjustments. Okay, the next thing to think about is monopod is a technique, or tripod versus handheld. Now, a lot of us may have a tripod, but we don't have a monopod. So here's a suggestion. This is a small tripod I just use for like a webcam or something, but pretend this is a big, like 5 foot or 6 foot tripod. I would take all the legs and move them in like this. So now you're using it as a monopod. And when you set your camera on top, the motion is like this. We can do different techniques. So back to the first step over here on handheld motions. One of the techniques we can do is this, is moving the camera up and down, up and down. Another motion is left to right, back and forth. Another one is a circular motion. And in another, some people actually do what's called a flicking motion. They just flick the camera. They time it when they hit that shutter and it flicks. So these are things you got to experiment with when you're shooting out there. And again, a monopod or tripod, again, if you have a tripod, pull all the legs together so it acts like a monopod. And when you place a camera on top, some people like to just go side to side with the monopod. Obviously, you can't go up and down, but you can do like a sort of a circular motion like this with the tripod set as a monopod. But the top, whatever you have is a ball figure or a fitting, you can also move this around. So this is just, it's all experimenting to get the look that you want. And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. So again, you might want to use a monopod or tripod. For my first attempt out this morning, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hand hold my camera and play with the motions I just shared with you. And that is doing the up and down motion again, left to right, and a circular motion like that, and see what I can come up with that. And again, playing with all those camera settings to get the proper exposure for myself. Okay, and also, and I can see this happening, but many attempts to get that perfect image. And I've been hearing some of the ones that are really great at this stuff are saying anywhere from 70 to 100 attempts to get that perfect image that stands out, that is viable to be printed. In other words, that is the perfect one for print. Other ones are just, it's just not quite there. So again, what I'm taking from this is a lot of experimentation and trial and error with a lot of images just to get that one that stands out. That's going to be the perfect one, again, for a fine art print. So these are some guidelines and again, camera techniques to think about. So this is your homework assignment, and the homework assignment is going to be the same for me. Because when I'm done here, I'm running out there this morning and hitting a park, and I'm going to start doing these techniques. And then I will see you in part 2 when I analyze the images and we'll take a look at it. I'll try to do a project right in front of you in Photoshop. Okay, so number 1, when you go out there, practice, 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 practice. And then when you're done practicing, go back out and practice again. Some more. And when you're done practicing, you practice again. Practice makes perfection. So again, a lot of trial and errors. And the way I always end my videos here, and that is always think out of the box, literally think out of the box, and push yourself and make those mistakes, because we learn from our mistakes. But before I end the video, if you could do me a favor, my email is listed down here again for you to see. Also, if you could like this video, please subscribe if you have not, and hit the notification bell. That way you'll get notified when I upload the new videos. Okay, so with that out of the way, I'm not going to end exactly the same way like I normally do, of thinking out of the box literally. And the reason is I'm going to see ya. I have to get out there and start shooting. So until next week, see ya.